Good morning and welcome to Willow's Green Permaculture. Today I'm going to be talking to you about something that you asked for. A couple weeks ago we did that full video on sorghum and there were a bunch of questions. Well, what can we do with sorghum? And I spoke to you about making bread and cake and cookies and pancakes and flatbread and all that kind of stuff, which you can do with sorghum wonderfully. Cut your use of regular flour in half at least using sorghum. But today I thought I'd bring you something special. I thought I'd bring you something that I eat for my breakfast in the morning and also something that I eat for snacks at nighttime or for dessert after supper. And that is sorghum pudding and chocolate sorghum pudding. So, if this is something you're interested in, then let's get started. So this here is some sorghum pudding and some chocolate sorghum pudding that I made this morning. It's with broomcorn sorghum, so it gives this beautiful color. And actually, we have so much sorghum that this sorghum that I made this pudding from today is actually from our 2023 harvest. Just so easy to grow and it grows in so much abundance. Here's our complete 2024 harvest, hanging in the workshop, just waiting for us to thresh it and put into jars. It's ready anytime. It's completely dry. It can stay like this in dry conditions practically indefinitely, but at least for a year, if not two. And so today I'm going to show you how to prepare this. It's really easy. So I found a whole bunch of articles in Google Scholar on sorghum and their health benefits. I read about 5 or 6 of them. I'm going to show you about 3 of them right here, but you can find it yourself. Google Scholar is a great resource because it puts online, available to the public, all sorts of research articles that have been peer-reviewed. It allows you the opportunity to read them. Pretty well all of them talk about the fact that sorghum provides a slow digesting starch compared to other cereals, which makes it something that's going to be that when you eat a meal that includes sorghum, that meal is going to be very satisfying. And you're not going to get hungry again in a short while. You're going to have let's say a normal appetite. They all talk about it being, of course, gluten-free. Many of the articles talk about sorghum providing protection against chronic disease. For example, disease is linked to inflammation, diabetes, obesity, and cancers of the gastrointestinal tract, and more. The articles talk about sorghum having phenolic compounds, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, that benefit gut microbiota. And that is so important because that is what's truly going to keep you healthy. It's having a healthy gut microbiota, because they're the ones that help you digest your food and keep you healthy. And that is basically what people take when people take probiotics. So in other words, sorghum, because it will be good for gut microbiota, is essentially a probiotic. The kind of things that you need, let's say if you've had to take antibiotics, you have to rebuild up your gut microbiota. And many of the articles talk about sorghum attenuating blood glucose responses. So, in other words, good for the cardiovascular system as well. For those of you who are interested in trying sorghum, you can see this abundance translates to a lot of flour. And it's so easy to make sorghum into flour. Check out our video from October on growing and harvesting sorghum and how to thresh it. Here I'm going to show you a little review about how we make this into flour, but it's super easy to make some wonderful flour. It's warm, so very important that you let this cool if you're going to store it for any number of days. Let it cool while open, otherwise you're going to have moisture. So here it is. Sorghum pudding only has 3 ingredients: whole sorghum flour, in this case it's whole broomcorn sorghum flour, sugar, and water. And then these little bowls, some of them have the regular sorghum pudding in them, and some of them have the chocolate sorghum pudding. And these only have 4 ingredients: whole broomcorn sorghum flour, cocoa powder, sugar, and water. So I'm gonna show you how we got this. Start off with the temperature on high as you slowly mix. Stir regularly or continuously if necessary until all the flour is dissolved into the water, and then keep an eye on it, stirring occasionally until it begins to boil. You can hear it starting to boil. I love the reddish burgundy color that the broomcorn sorghum gives to the pudding and to the liquid, to the flour, to breads, to cakes. You have to stir regularly so you don't burn the bottom. Now in this recipe, I used 6 cups of water and 8 heaping tablespoons of flour, but you could easily cut that in half. 3 cups of water and 4 heaping tablespoons of flour. But I wanted to make lots because my last batch got eaten up real quick. Every once in a while I like to check for thickness as it starts to get thicker, so I put it into a separate bowl and let it cool down, and then I taste it. Now it's boiling. So I am going to reduce this to a simmer. Now I put a little bit too much in this pot, so it's gonna risk overflowing. Now that this is boiling, I'm gonna add the sugar according to the amounts that I've used, and then I'm gonna divide it up and put some of it in here for making the chocolate pudding. Because this is too full. We started with 6 cups of water and 8 heaping tablespoons of flour. We're going to use 4 regular tablespoons of sugar. I use raw sugar. 4. 2, 3, 4. So 8 heaping tablespoons of flour, 4 regular tablespoons of sugar. Gonna mix it all in. It's probably gonna cool down, slow down the boiling process for a moment. And then I'm gonna separate this so that I can make the chocolate pudding in the other one. So all I'm gonna do there is add cocoa powder and let it continue to boil and thicken. But it's already thickening. So really it doesn't take long at all. I think the sugar's mixed enough in there. Separate out the amount I'm going to use for the chocolate pudding. Sorghum, water, cocoa powder, sugar for chocolate pudding. I'm going to put it roughly half. This pot easily takes 3 cups. Well, it takes 4 when it's completely full. But I don't want it to overflow either. So I think I've put enough in here for my chocolate pudding. I can turn the heat back up. This I'm just gonna let finish boiling, thicken it up a little bit more. I'm gonna test a little bit that I put on the side. As you can see, look at that. About the consistency of a pudding, which means this is almost ready. I'd like it a little thicker, Now that it's boiling, I've got it on low heat, not minimum, but low heat, just to keep it simmering. As you can see, it's boiling nicely. Should only take a few minutes now to finish. This one starts boiling back here. I'm going to add the cocoa powder. And in here, I'm going to add, I guess, maybe half a cup. Maybe this is too much. It's been a long time since I cooked with cocoa powder. I think this is plenty. I've put in less than half a cup here. That line is half a cup, so it's less than half a cup. I think that should be enough. Cocoa powder is strong enough. Now you may want to add a little bit more sugar or a little less sugar. Now I'm going to add the cocoa powder to the one in the back for my chocolate pudding. Now, not using different spoons, so there's going to be a little tiny bit of chocolate get into my regular sorghum pudding, and that's okay. Final test for this one, for sweetness and thickness. And I'm going to test the other one. I'll just reuse my cocoa powder bowl, testing for sweetness and for thickness and for chocolatiness. So there we go. It'll cool down a minute. Let's taste. First the pudding, the regular pudding. Nice and thick enough for me. Very good. Not too sweet. Serving it warm, you can always add sugar if you want. Turn these down. So I think they're done, both of them. Okay, let's taste the chocolate one. The cocoa powder made it even thicker. Look at that. Delicious. So they're all done. Chocolate sorghum pudding. Water, sugar, sorghum, cocoa powder. And regular sorghum pudding. Water, sugar, sorghum. Beautiful color. And here's my breakfast. Sorghum pudding and chocolate sorghum pudding. Here's my breakfast for this morning. This is just regular whole sorghum pudding. So just so you can tell the difference, whole sorghum flour pudding, whole sorghum flour and chocolate pudding. This is the chocolate one. I love pudding. Very nice. That's just plain sorghum. It's so good. Well, the sorghum water and a little bit of sugar. This is good. This could really become a staple, and there's no regular flour in there. There's just sorghum. Before actually starting to work on the video, I did a test version of the pudding. But in that test version, I added milk. So a cup of milk, it was 3 cups of water, 4 heaping tablespoons of whole sorghum flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 cup of milk. Here's some broomcorn. You can see the seeds that are left over after we thresh this. So that's what's left afterwards. Now this is a year old and it's been outside, so it's lost all its color. That's our little handle there that we attached to it. That's a bamboo handle. But these are the stems, and here are the blooms, basically, the seed heads. So now I'm gonna sweep the table, and it works just great. Something else you can do with your sorghum, with broomcorn sorghum anyway, make a broom out of it. You can have brooms just about everywhere. Now I'm gonna put the broom away. Just hang it in a tree in our camping area. And here's a little mini one for smaller jobs that we keep in our workshop. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it interesting and you learned something from it. If you found it interesting, you enjoyed it, you learned something from it, then please share it with your friends. And don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't done so yet, then subscribe. Support our channel just by subscribing. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great week, and we will see you next time. And many of the articles talk about sorghum attenuating blood glucose. And many of the articles talk about sorghum attenuating blood glucose responses. And many of the articles talk about sorghum attenuating blood glucose responses. And many of the articles